Hello and welcome to day 5 of 7 strategies in 7 days to not stress about people. And today we're going to talk about balance, getting a balance in your life. And I'll explain why this is important for not stressing about people, because you think, oh, what's that got to do with other people? It's massively important for other people, but it's having that balance in your life when it is about you being happy, calm and relaxed. Because when you are, you can deal with anybody and anything. You know, before we were talking about it's your responsibility to put yourself first. You know, you are the most important person in your life. You know, it's along the same things, because when your life is balanced, you can cope with whatever life chucks at you. When I was saying in the beginning, when we were talking in day 1 and day 2 about it's not about you and people are different, these thought patterns, this way of thinking tends to kick in when your life isn't right, when you're not in the best place. Because I was talking about this part of the brain that steps in, this primitive part of our brain that steps in about survival. When you're not right, when it steps in, it's part of what our natural survival instinct would have been thousands of years ago when we were primitive man and woman. It would have primarily been about survival. Now, we've moved beyond that these days, but this part of your brain, you can't just wipe it out and eliminate it. You can't update the software from the original operating system. It's still there. But life has changed, of course. So what happens is one of the biggest threats back in those times would have been other different tribes. You know, humans weren't very kind to other humans outside a different tribe. You know, we need our own tribe and our own people, but outside that, other people you came across would have been a threat. So when this primitive part of the brain that operates in that way kicks in, then we see other people as a threat. We'll get paranoid. We'll get paranoid about what other people are saying and doing. So we apply it to ourselves and we think it's about us. And we will also use our imagination to think to make up what other people are thinking, even. And if it's coming from our imagination, but we decide what they're thinking for them and we judge them from our own perspective. So, and then it causes us stress, which is really silly, isn't it? You know, you've decided, you've imagined what other person's thinking, and then that's causing you stress, which is causing you to be paranoid and imagine what other people are thinking. It all goes round in a vicious cycle. Now, the reason that part of the brain that does all that steps in is because your life isn't balanced. It isn't there's something gone out of sync. Now, if you can imagine, you'll have to imagine this now because I don't have anything, a graphic to show you. But if you imagine that you've got a circle and it's split into 3 sections, right? And on one part, 1/3 is your work. Now, I don't just mean your job you go out and do. I mean your responsibilities, your duties, what gets you out of bed in the morning. Okay, so you've got that, which we call work, but chores and responsibilities, you could call it. And then on another 1/3, you've got relationships. And these are your interactions with other people, your relationships, your personal relationships, your family relationships, your community, your relationships at work. It's where you stand within your social circles and wider circles. So your relationships and how they're going. And then the other 1/3 is yourself, looking after yourself. And we were talking about putting yourself first, and it's not selfish to do that. This is where this comes in. And why I was talking about balance today instead of yesterday. So you've got, if you imagine it a bit like one of those games. Do you remember those games that had ball bearings, and you have to sort of balance it, get the ball bearing in the hole, and then you've got to go on and do the next one? Okay, think of it a bit like that. Each of these thirds in this little game has a ball bearing in it, and you have to get everyone in. You have to get your work right, you have to get your relationships bit right, and you have to get yourself right. Now, what you can't see when you're playing this game and getting this balance right is that the most important one to get in first is you. yourself, is to look after yourself. Because if you're looking after yourself, then these other two click into place quite easily. Because you look at the world from a different perspective. You know, you look at things from your intellect, from the higher cortex, the bit that works out solutions and will assess a situation rationally rather than reacting from this primitive brain that I've been talking about. So you get yourself in first and you get that bit right. And work. You have to, then you will be able to get out of. The work and relationships don't come in any particular order. It's what the priority is for you, and that's to do with your personality type. But these other two, these work and relationships, you need to get them balanced and right. If you've got yourself right, then you can do it easily from a proper perspective. If you haven't, then you'll be there for, I don't know, years just trying to get it all balanced. But when you get it balanced, and you've got, you know, imagine you've got this game and it's all balanced, all the ball bearings are in, your relationships are great, your work is great, you're looking after yourself, and everything's hunky-dory, you've got a spring in your step and you're enjoying life, you're living in the moment, everything is great. You cannot put that down. You can't go and put this game on the sideboard and expect your ball bearings to stay in place in their little respective holes. Because no doubt somebody will come along and knock it off, or you will nudge it and something will fall out. You have to constantly keep that balanced and tweaking it. With practice, you get to know what's going wrong and to deal with it, especially if you make sure you keep yourself right. The other two, you'll be able to adjust. But if your work is not right, you need to do something about that because it will affect the other parts. If your relationships are not right, you need to take action. Think of it thinking of things in a different way is taking action. You know, if we're going back to what we were talking about, people are different. You know, just allowing people to be them and accepting the situation and letting it go is doing something about the relationships. But if there's something in there that's causing you stress, you need to do something different about it. If there's something in your work, in your responsibilities, in your jobs that's causing you stress, you need to do something about it, not just allow it to keep causing you stress. But if you're not right, you need to do something about you. And keep maintaining this balance in your life, then people won't stress you out. Because you're okay, you know, everything's okay and you can just deal with things. When people say things to you that are a bit unkind, because they're direct or because it's the way they talk or whatever, you won't take it personally. You'll just let it go over your head. You won't let it faze you. If you're right, if you're balanced, you know. If somebody has got an issue with you, you know, maybe you have got into conflict with somebody for some reason because of their issues. If you're balanced, you will deal with it in a rational, calm, intellectual, adult way. You won't react in an angry, anxious, caveman way or cavewoman way and go at loggerheads, because you know that's never gonna, you're not gonna solve a problem just by clashing with people. And if you're right and if you're balanced, you can see that and you can do that and you can act appropriately. But if you're not balanced, if you go off balance, if something's not right in your life, in any of these three different sections, then you're more likely to react in a negative, inflammatory way than you are to deal with it in a sensible way. And also, when you're not balanced, problems seem bigger. The problems with other people, the conflict, the things that are stressing you out, they all get bigger and bigger and bigger. If you're balanced, balancing yourself is about growing yourself to be bigger than the problem. Is having the things right in your life so that these little things, stresses from other people, they're not, they just don't bother you. You can let them go, you can see them for what they are, you can see that so-and-so is having a bad day, or your mother-in-law's just being your mother-in-law, or your children are running around screaming for some reason. They've had too many E-numbers, and you can let it go rather than taking it to heart and reacting badly. So balance, get these things right in your life. The first one is looking after you, as we discussed yesterday, is getting yourself balanced. And that means having a life, you know, doing things for you, which actually we're going to talk a bit more about tomorrow. So that was today, balance. Tomorrow will be, where are we up to? Day 6 of 7 strategies in 7 days to not stress about people. So stay tuned, speak to you tomorrow. Bye.